Hey there, guys. Welcome to the Raw Reflections podcast. My name is Ariele Keller. All of this is brought to you by The Mirror Impact. You can check us out on Facebook at The Mirror Impact. Join the Facebook group. We're now doing Workout Wednesdays at noon. I'm doing a Facebook Live 30-minute workout, full body, each Wednesday. So if you want to join me for that, you can join the private group, which is just the Mirror Impact group. So you can join, you can like the page on Facebook and then request to join that group. Message me with any questions or requests for podcast topics. And you can also follow us on Instagram, mirror.impact, or email any podcast requests to themirrorimpact@gmail.com. So today we're going to be getting into our topic of mindful eating. Now, this is definitely going to be difficult to keep short today because I love talking about this stuff when it comes to health, connecting it with the mind, the body, and all of that excites me so much. And I could talk about it for hours, go into crazy detail, go off on a million rabbit trails, but I have written detailed notes today, so I'm going to try to stay on track as best as I can and keep this to a decent time increment there. We're going to try to keep to 30 minutes. We shall see. So today we're talking about mindful eating. What is mindful eating? You might think calorie counting, macro tracking, maybe just intuitive eating. Some people call it, when I feel like eating, I'll eat. And when I'm, not hungry, I won't eat. And that's, all of those things are great concepts, but it's very easy to say that and it's more difficult to execute it. So keeping that in mind, mindful eating and the way that that's slightly different is it's just developing, being keyword, developing the awareness of your experiences, not just with food, but with what's happening before you have the urge to eat and how that plays into our desires to eat. Or this can also play into a habit of drinking or smoking, whatever substance that is, or, whatever your vice is, kind of. Maybe it's your glass of wine, maybe it's your workout even. Maybe that's your escape. Instead of processing your emotions or processing something that's happened, you just lose yourself in your workout, which isn't a bad way to work out that aggression, but we need to make sure we're processing rather than just burying our feelings. So we're going to kind of talk about how that correlates and some key things to think about when we're in that moment before we eat and deciding between, is this going to benefit me or is this not going to benefit me? So hopefully you can gain something from this podcast today and you can apply it in our lovely quarantine state when we're home and food is right now it's at easy disposal and possibly even not as healthy foods because we're trying to stock up just in case. And a lot of those foods are going to be more carby, more possibly fattier, or just higher in calories so that we can be able to, store that if we need to and survive off of it. But we're going to talk about that survival instinct a little bit today as well. So mindful eating, developing the awareness of experiences, physical cues, so the taste, the texture, the flavor of the food. Maybe it's I love to do the exercise of when you're craving something and you crave it a lot, noticing what it is about it that you're craving. So people who crave salty things, they'll go for carbier snacks typically, and being able to replace that key craving, which is the salt or is the sour or the sweet, being able to replace that key craving with something that is much lower calorie, much lower in glycemic index. So for a client who has issues with, they're constantly craving chips in the evening, and teaching them how to, finding some sort of substitute that works for them to satisfy that craving, but also help them to identify, okay, this is something that I do crave. Why is this? Do I need to reset my body, do I need to do some sort of a fasting spree to reset my digestive system, reset my ghrelin levels so that I'm not craving this? So that's why I love to work with people individually, because it allows me to be able to dig in deep to the core issue. But as a base, typically we crave a certain flavor that we have, like that's kind of our palate. On our tongue, we have the different taste buds that taste different. We have the salty, the sweet, the bitter, the sour, those kinds of things. What do we crave? I notice late night that I crave dark chocolate. I crave the bitter, but I don't quite crave the sweetness. I crave the bitterness of it and a little bit of salt on there too. That's typically what I crave. So if I can adjust that with some sort of a lower sugar, lower calorie item, or I limit my quantity, and that's something that I add in for my day. And I know that I'm going to be having this bit of, fat and this bit of sugar in my little bar of chocolate. That's my vice, if you haven't been able to tell. So a key thing to remember here is that this is developing all of these awarenesses for our experiences and our feelings about food. So it's not something that we're going to master overnight or in a week or even in a month. This isn't something that you're just going to get it one day and you're never going to have a misstep. It's not like that. Nothing with a healthy lifestyle goes like that, because it is day by day. And I encourage you to resonate on the missteps as you do the milestones, and allow yourself to learn through both of those and not beat yourself up, but allow yourself to say, okay, well, this is what I had an issue with, and this is how I'm going to get through it. And again, we're going to talk more about that as we go along. So backing up a little bit, we know that nutrition is 80 to 90% of weight loss or weight, body goals. If you're trying to tone up, if you're trying to lose fat, whatever that might be, your nutrition is going to be key. And for some, it's even more so for those who have digestive sensitivities such as dairy or gluten or soy. Those are the ones that are going to be have to be extremely careful, because if your gut is a more sensitive, it's going to become inflamed more. So you have to be more cautious about the foods that you eat. And it can become a little bit more, you have to be more strategic with the way that you eat. I definitely know that I have, with having to cut out gluten completely and then dairy primarily. I use a lot of dairy-free options, and I feel so much better. And I never realized the inflammation it was causing on my gut until I got so desperate. I just cut everything out of my diet and just figured out what the things that were causing me inflammation in my stomach to hurt. I had to figure out what those were. And for me, it was gluten and dairy, and those are two of the most common. So it was easy to rule those out. Or I guess narrow them down to that. So for a couple other things that may play into the nutrition really needing to be on point, because there are going to be people who can eat just about whatever they want and lose weight or gain muscle. There are going to be people that can follow a basic structure of a diet with meal plans that are set out for them, and it's some generic thing they bought for $50 online, and they can lose weight with that. And that's fabulous, because it worked for them, it worked for their lifestyle, and that's what they were seeing results from. That's fantastic. But it doesn't always work that way for everyone. Not every diet is going to be the same, because every person's body Every person's digestive system is like a snowflake. We're all extremely unique and we process things in extremely unique ways. So one person is going to differ from the next. And that also plays into preferences and the experiences that we've had with food in our life prior to adulthood. For me, a big thing for me was that my escape was chocolate. That was always, I connected positive emotions to chocolate, and I still do. My mom would reward us when we were good at the grocery store with a little bit of chocolate. When I was working on my schoolwork, I was homeschooled, so I was home quite a bit, and I would sneak chocolate chips, and I would be like, oh, well, I deserve this. I got, this many math problems done. And I would help myself to a little serving of chocolate chips and some almonds. And that wasn't a bad snack, but when you come back for 3 or 4 more servings, it's not a snack anymore. It's a 400 or 500 calorie snack, which should have been a meal. So I never understood how those things were affecting me, not just physically, but also psychologically. Because now I reward myself with chocolate, and I have to be careful because when I'm feeling a negative emotion, I will think chocolate will make me feel better. And that is the feeling that I have to address when I am tempted to eat that second or third bar of chocolate in the day, because it happens regularly. It's one of my common, it just teases me. The dark chocolate teases me. Justin's laughing at me. Yeah, all right. So we went over how each person deals with foods differently. And not every diet is going to be specific for each person. So that is another reason why I think it's so hard for people to stick to diets, is because humans survive off of instant gratification. And my prompt today for my Facebook Live porch workout was find the little accomplishments, because those are the things that we can get instant gratification from. It's going to be those little hits of dopamine that help us through our day, and then working towards a greater goal. And that excitement, that's going to increase those positive chemicals in our brains and our bodies. So for this, we're trying to focus on the positive elements of what this nutrition lifestyle is going to bring, rather than the idea of diets where we're focused on all of the things we're going to be missing out on, the restrictive versus restorative mindset when it comes to healthy eating. So that's one thing I want to start off with. We're going to combine today with this mindful eating strategy with the mirror coaching model. So our first letter of the coaching model is M, which is mindset. And we've talked a lot about that already, with just getting addressing, hey, this is how we're going to look at it in a different way. That's already getting our mindset in the right place. And then how we're going to be far more likely to stick to it if we are enjoying it, or if it's something we're looking forward to. Getting excited about doing research for new recipes, or collaborating with your friends and sharing recipes, so that you don't have as dreaded of a task to come up with all these things. And I know meal planning is frustrating and time consuming sometimes, but you don't have to take the joy out of eating just because you're putting good into your body. This is going to make it even more enjoyable. I can't tell you how excited I feel, how much more excited I feel when I make something healthy taste good than something that's not healthy taste good. It's so much more of an accomplishment. So it's important when establishing our positive mindset that we're directing our attention to how restorative and beneficial the foods are that we're putting in our bodies, rather than resonating on all the foods that we're going to be eliminating from our diet, or, oh, I'm not going to be able to have Oreos. That's not necessarily true. Just asking yourself, are the Oreos going to be benefiting you, Are 10 Oreos going to be benefiting you? Or maybe you have 3 and it's your treat. I don't know. So that's completely up to you though. And that's the joy in it, is that we have the ability to adapt our own personal lifestyle diets, but it's not thinking of it as a diet in and of itself. We associate that word with restrictive lifestyle. So thinking of it as a nutrition lifestyle or just a healthy lifestyle is so much easier, because it just falls into place with everything else that we're doing to also benefit our bodies. So there's 3 key things with addressing our mindset here that I want you to take away from today. So if you have a notepad or you're able to take notes, then now would be the time to do it. The first one is going to be choosing to focus on the positive. We've already gone over this a lot, but I just really want to focus in on it. Choosing the positive. You have the choice to choose the positive or focus on the negative. It is a choice. Every single thought that pops into your head, you have the ability to consider that as truth or decide to flip it around and create some sort of positive result out of it. That is your choice. And until we address that, we're not going to see positive change in our lives. The little accomplishments, the little obstacles that you've been able to get over, or the little things, maybe just making your breakfast. Maybe it's, I was supposed to do intermittent fasting today, and I waited until my fasting time was over at noon, and I didn't have any issues, and I drank half of my water before that time. I was thirsty. That made me thirsty. And choosing to focus on those accomplishments over the setbacks. Acknowledge the setbacks, yes, but we're not going to fixate on them to where it holds us back from our positive mindset. And in this process, we have to be patient with ourselves. So it's like riding a bike. We're not going to just start riding a bike and like take off the training wheels automatically. We're going to ride with training wheels, and then we're going to take them off, and we're probably going to start slow or work our way up, or maybe we wear the knee pads at first, So just keeping in mind, it is a process. It's a lifestyle. If this is something that you want to stay consistent in and to have this be a sustainable thing, then you have to be patient with yourself and allow yourself to process the joys and the milestones and also the missteps. So choose to focus on the positive. The next one is going to be taking ownership and responsibility for the missteps. So the decisions that you have made on maybe the foods that you've eaten, or how much of the food that you've eaten. Maybe it's you feel bad about I'm going to take away the feel bad part. Just as a broader scope here, when you make a choice that may not have been what you planned, such as eating ice cream after your 8 o'clock fasting mark, or maybe you break your fast 3 hours early because you're starving and you just can't even, or you're at brunch with friends and you're like, screw it. Who knows what it is, or maybe you just pick up McDonald's on your way home because you're tired and you're hungry and you're emotional, and that's how you're processing right now. Taking ownership of those choices, not blaming them on anybody else, because when we play the blame game, it gets us absolutely nowhere. So let's take ownership for the things that the decisions that we've made and the choices that we've made, and from there, move forward. Don't focus on what you've done in the past and how you could have changed it, how you could have done better necessarily. Take that, learn from it, move forward. Next time, I'm going to do this. Not, I should have done this. It's next time, I'm going to make the choice to do this. So, first one, we have choosing to focus on the positive. Second one, we have taking ownership and responsibility for the missteps. And then the last one is be kind to yourself. And I addressed this a little bit, but it's be kind and show yourself the grace that you would want to show a friend who's frustrated about their misstep through the week with their nutrition or their fitness, or maybe you didn't get a workout in. Be patient. Allow yourself, listen to your body. If it's telling you that you are weak and your sugar is low and you need to eat something or you're going to pass out, then listen to your body and eat something small. Don't overindulge, but eat something small. If you need to rest more, allow yourself to rest. If there's a day that your workouts doesn't get in because your throat is sore and your lymph nodes are swollen, that's your body telling you to cool it down and rest because you've been overdoing yourself. So listen to the cues of your body. Yesterday, I told you, I said this in a different one, but I had a bad day yesterday. And I ended it with a nice, long, hot salt bath. And that is my go-to when I'm having a stressful day, because I know if I overdo it, then I get really mean to myself. And I start focusing on all of the things that I've done that I could have been more productive here, or I could have been doing this instead of this, or I'm so mad at myself. I watched that show and I could have been doing the dishes or the laundry or something else instead, and I could have been productive. And I get lost in that cycle real fast. So I have to be very careful. And that's something that Justin calls me out on sometimes, because he's like, "Babe, how can you treat yourself like this when you instruct your clients to show grace to themselves? Like, you have to show this by example." And I'm like, you know what? You're right. And that is what I think about a lot of times when I get stuck in these frustrating mental or emotional spirals down. So just because we're being kind to ourselves doesn't mean we're allowing ourselves to slack, but sometimes you do deserve a little bar of chocolate. Sometimes not 3 throughout the day, 1. Okay, so it's all about balance. So those 3, one more time: choosing to focus on the positive, taking responsibility and ownership of our missteps, and the last one was be kind to yourself above all else. You want this to be fun, because if it's not fun, you're not going to stick with it. So if you beat yourself up, who likes to be beat up and then get up and have a good attitude? I'm sorry, I don't. I'm not like that. All right, so we're going to cover 3 more here on the next letter, which is identify. And I'm going to try to tie this up as quickly as possible because I'm already running on my time. So the next letter in our mirror coaching model is identify. And this is the portion where we're identifying what it is that we need to create change for or in. And the first one here is we're going to go through the process of when we have that desire to eat or drink or smoke or whatever that vice is. Number 1, the thought before. A thought precedes every feeling, every action, every reaction, even if we don't realize it. So when we are empowered and we're empowering ourselves when we decide to turn that unconscious thought into a conscious thought, because that allows it to becomes material, basically. So we can, if we identify it, then we can figure out why we're feeling that thought or why we're thinking that thought, what the feelings are that come from it, and understand and identify patterns that cause us to make bad decisions in those situations. So first thing, the thought before. When you have the urge to eat, or you are trying to, maybe you think that you're hungry, asking ourselves, am I hungry? Why do I want to eat this right now? Is it a thought that popped into your head about being frustrated or bored, or maybe it's just that you haven't eaten in several hours and you just forgot? And I will say this, or maybe it's, for some people, it may be not eating. Maybe that is, you know that you're not getting enough calories in your diet. So when you think about eating and then you're like, oh no, I'm not hungry, why are you thinking that? Is it because you're focused on something else and you're forgetting to eat? So listening to the body, and that can be in a reversed situation as well. So I don't want this to just be for people who are losing weight. It's for anybody who needs to adjust something in their nutrition or their lifestyle. So don't take me just for this topic. You can address this in whatever way it fits in your life. So identifying that thought before, and are you wanting to eat because you're hungry? Or maybe drink a glass of water and chug it and then check again, see if you're still hungry. When you finish your plate and you want to eat more, why is it? Is it really because it tastes that good? Because very rarely do we eat food simply for the flavor. Definitely have had a steak where I didn't want to stop eating and I knew I was full and I just kept eating because it was so good. But to be honest, if I really think about it, it wasn't because it was so good. It was out of that feeling of lack that I wasn't going to be able to experience that anymore. And I don't know if anybody else can relate to that, but that is oftentimes why we choose to eat, or why we choose to continue eating when we are full, when we've already reached that point of satisfaction where we're not full, but we're not hungry anymore. And that's the point we should be eating to, filling our body with the things that are beneficial to us and eating to the point where we're not overstuffed, we're not full, but we're satisfied. And catching ourselves in that feeling of lack, or that thought of, oh no, I have to eat all of this. Growing up, I was taught to clear my plate, okay? And that's a great concept to have. But as an adult, it's very important to understand the thoughts and the feelings that we need to identify and release. And one of the ones that for me personally, I've had to release is the thought of there are starving children in Africa. Because that thought would make me clear my plate even when I was full. No matter what meal I was eating, even if I didn't like it, I would finish my plate because it was there. And there have been studies done to show that visual responses do correlate with overeating, simply because we have that inherent desire to, I don't want to be disrespectful, or whatever that desire is that has been instilled in us from childhood or throughout adolescence, and we subconsciously connect them. So again, taking that subconscious, that unconscious thought and turning it into a conscious one, identifying it, and then figuring out what we want to do with it. Is it one that we need to release? Or is it one that we need to hold to and give ourselves smaller portions? And check in with ourselves. Do that little, take a moment, take a couple breaths, maybe drink a glass of water. Find what helps you process that thought. And then we're going to go to step 2, which is the feeling that thought brings up. And again, that correlates with the starving children in Africa, that feeling of guilt, or that feeling of survival that is inherently what we've survived with for a very, very long time as human beings, is that instinctive survival. My body needs to, take in this food, all of this food. I am hungry. And then we find ourselves extremely full, and it takes our bodies so long to digest it that it's not really doing any benefit for us, because we've just stuffed ourselves and then our eating plan is off and all of this different stuff. So it's much better to fill ourselves to the point of satisfaction. And we need to understand the feelings that are behind that need to eat, to take in calories, to take in energy, to refuel. Is it because you just did a workout? I know a lot of times for me, psychologically, I'll think that I need to eat a meal after my workout, because, and especially in the last couple of months, my schedule has been so haywire with my workouts, and I was very used to eating right after my workouts on a regular basis. But I've had to adjust that and adjust my mindset and the way that I feel about it, because I have to make sure that I'm not eating simply because I worked out. Not a full meal, at least. Eating something after you work out, I definitely recommend. But there were times when I didn't need to eat a full meal because I'd just eaten a full meal 2 hours before, and I just needed a little snack to save me until dinner that was 2 hours later, or whatever the situation that day was. And allowing myself to release that feeling of that I wasn't going to be able to eat another meal, or especially with intermittent fasting, I'll feel like I have to eat right then because there's 10 minutes until I'm not supposed to eat for 16 hours. So I'll try to eat this big fat meal and then I'll feel terrible because I stuffed myself. And that was something I had to work on when I first started intermittent fasting. So it's a process, and it's a identifying the feeling that we may not want to feel fully. So the feelings of loneliness or boredom or sadness, a lot of times we turn to food or other vices we don't have to process that emotion. So in that case, I challenge you to learn to feel that emotion fully. Even just taking a moment and being like, what is this feeling really feel like? How does it make me feel as an individual? And this exercise helps us become more aware of ourselves, not just when we go into the kitchen and eat food, or go into the kitchen and have the urge to eat food. It's also in our interactions with other people, in our relationships, in our business connections, in just the way that we're processing different situations. Being able to identify the feeling and feel it fully, whether that's good or bad, because if we're being honest, we would not know what joy is without sadness. We would not know what pain, or like I was saying earlier, we wouldn't know what peace is without that pain, without that discomfort. So there's a balance in the world and in our emotions that we need to find, but we can't find by suppressing. We can only find by allowing these feelings to come up and feeling them fully. So in whatever way feel that you are able to do that, whether it's alone or whether it's, for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 10 seconds, maybe you decide to take 5 deep breaths in and process your feeling and then release it. If that works for you, then fantastic. But the point is to challenge yourself in feeling those feelings that you want to avoid feeling. I know this is starting to get real confusing. I apologize. Feel the emotion that you're trying to cover up by choosing to eat or choosing to work out or choosing to smoke or drink or whatever that vice is. And I'm not saying that any of these things are bad for you. I'm just saying that there is a balance between, certain kinds of smoking. Obviously there are medical reasons for that one, but I'm not going to be hating on the people that drink every once in a while and, just bear with me. We have a balance between everything good and bad in our lives. And it's important to focus on fueling our bodies with the foods that we want to benefit it, while also processing the feelings that we may not necessarily want to process all the time. So it's a balance. And then, so we have, first one, we have our, the thought before. 2, the feeling. And then we go to step 3, which is decision. It's DRAR. Decision, reason, action, and reflection. So we make a decision, whether we want to eat still or drink, whatever. Do we still want this? Is this something that you need? Is this something that I need to fuel my body with? And ultimately that decision, whether you are still going to eat it, whether that answer is yes, I need it, or no, I don't. Yes, I deserve it, or no, I don't. It is a decision that only you can make. And sometimes alcohol can make that more difficult, for sure. But So if you combine those, it just makes it even more difficult. But the decision is yours. Then I want you to justify it with a reason. Despite what that decision is, tell yourself what the reason is. I'm making this choice because. Why am I doing this? And then you're going to take action. And you're going to do what you're going to do. Ultimately, you are a human being. You are going to make your own choices as an adult. And you're going to eat what you're going to eat. And then your next step is reflection. And this is going to be not only reflection as an action, in reflecting on how you handled it and addressing what you may do differently next time, but also you are a reflection of the choices that you make. So if you choose to make healthy choices for 2 weeks, you're going to start seeing those results in the mirror. Literally reflecting, okay? Didn't even try to put that in, but it worked. If you decide to fill your body with crap and you make bad decisions and you reason things away and you blame it on other people and you take actions that aren't necessarily benefiting your body, then that is going to reflect in the mirror and also in the way that you feel and the way that you are processing food. It's going to be a reflection of your position right now is going to be a reflection of what you ate 2 weeks ago. How consistent you were with it. Your regularity and trying to keep your meals in roughly the same time, or, just making sure you're eating a little bit healthier, little steps, whatever step that you're at, whatever milestone you're at, whatever that next one is, moving towards your next step forward. And this is going to very much be based on, this is our response. So in the mirror coaching model, we have 3 responses. You either release, repair, or overcome. Typically, things fall into those 3 categories. Every once in a while, it'll be like an odd category out. But for the most part, everything that comes up in our life, every feeling, emotion, situation, responsibility, relationship, we either have to repair it, overcome something through it to be able to make sure that it's not something that's going away. So we need to overcome it, or release it and allow it to be something that is not something that brings us stress anymore. And like I said earlier, with the feelings, some of the feelings that we feel when it comes to eating, or feeling that we need to eat everything on our plate, there are some feelings there that we're going to need to release. They're not serving us. They're not serving anyone. They're not benefiting us. And by holding to them, it is actually going to hinder us from our progress and the product, I guess. And then there's going to be some times when we need to repair our perception of something, such as maybe you had a negative experience with a certain food group when you were younger, and you have to repair those feelings towards that food group because you actually know that it's really good for you and you want to try to incorporate it back into your diet. So that's an example of something you may need to repair from. And then also with any sort of feeling that you need to overcome, in the sense of, this is a fear. I fear that I'm going to be in lack. I'm not going to be able to eat again. Or maybe it's loneliness, and you constantly go to the fridge or the cabinet when you feel lonely or sad. And maybe that's something that you need to overcome. Maybe find another avenue to be able to process that emotion, or learn to process that emotion out loud or through writing or in another way. And any other emotions that you feel that you need to overcome in moving towards that positive change you're creating for your life. And a key thing with being able to overcome some of these things, and also with the decision and the reason, action, reflection, that is going to be a process again. So creating patterns, or being able to identify patterns between the thoughts that connect to the feelings that connect to the actions, that's going to help you to identify and catch those thoughts at the very beginning to be able to address them faster. Because like I say with the, when I talk about depression and anxiety and that downward spiral, and the further along you let that ball roll down that downward spiral, the more momentum it gets. So our goal here is to catch the ball before it starts rolling down that downward slope. And we want to catch that thought before it turns into feelings that are harder to overcome or address. And then before we take that action and possibly limit our progress because of that decision. So with these patterns, we can also come up with solutions. So ways to overcome our feelings of, I don't have enough time to prep food. I can't shop correctly. No, okay, yes, but there are resources that can help you. Pretty much every excuse you could make for being healthy, there is a resource out there you can find. It's the effort and the choice whether you want to do the research or whether you want to just use that as your excuse to not be healthy. So ultimately, you do have the power to do the research. Yes, it can be a whole lot easier with somebody to give you the instruction and give you the resources and the accountability all in one. And if you can pay for that and you can, you commit to that, that's your way to getting to your best self. Right on. Fantastic. But for those who can't, a couple of tips for you is going to be preparation for sure. Planning ahead. If you're not planners, suck it up, do it anyways. Choosing foods that are going to fuel your body. You have to plan ahead for that. Sometimes you have to write yourself a list when you go to the grocery store. Highly, highly recommend that. Know about what foods that you're going to make. I don't make a meal plan and I don't meal prep, guys. I make Monday chicken in the crock pot and I make as much in the crock pot as I can to where Justin and I are going to eat it throughout the week. Tuesday, we put it on tacos for Taco Tuesday. He preps those because I'm training. Wednesday, we eat leftovers typically. So maybe we'll do rice bowls with kale and chicken, maybe some turkey bacon. We just kind of ad-lib it. It does not have to be complicated. I keep it very simple in my house because I really only enjoy to cook when I'm not doing other things. I do like to cook sometimes, but I prefer to cook for people. And when I'm just trying to cook for me and my husband, I'm just like, meh, I need to make something quick and easy. And a lot of times that crock-pot chicken lasts us all week, or I'll have to cook again on my next slower day. So work it around your life, but prepare in advance. I know that every Monday I'm going to get one of my crock pot bags out, put a bunch of chicken in there, make a simple marinade and put it in the crock pot. I put frozen chicken in my crock pot, guys. It's super duper easy. Get a family pack of chicken and throw it in there. It's really super easy. So, and buy a crock pot if you don't have one. I swear. Preparation, research, recipes, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, all these recipes. If you have food allergies or food sensitivities, or you just want to try something out, maybe lower carb, there are all kinds of recipes on the internet that you can find and try. And they even have you can even look ones up that have the breakdown of calories and macronutrients, and you can find those too. So use your internet. It's there for a reason, and at full access right now. Investment of time and money, deciding and effort, deciding how much time you're going to be investing in this. If you feel that you want to meal plan, like strict meal plan, and prep all of your meals before, on Monday, then designate your time to do that. Or maybe you are, for those of us that are, going to be going back to work, for your lunches, maybe you have a Sunday or a couple of hours throughout your weekend that you dedicate to prepping a meal, or that's your crock pot meal, prepping a whole bunch of meals for the week. So adjusting it to your lifestyle and not allowing those excuses of, I don't have time. If you can watch TV or you can be on Facebook or you can, do random things that kind of just waste time fillers, then you can prep your food. It's just a matter of what you're putting your time and your effort in. And that's going to have to do with your commitment level. So ultimately, again, that's your choice. One thing I will say to you wives and mothers, allow your husband to help you, because that's one thing I've really had to learn. I'm extremely independent and I like to do everything on my own. But there are times that I'm like, babe, I need to finish this. You're playing video games. I need you to make dinner. Please say it nicely. It's undemanding. Please, I need your help. I'm overwhelmed. Can you help me do this? Give him a simple task. He makes tacos on Tuesday because he just preps all of the ingredients. It's super simple. He doesn't have to cook anything. And unless he's like warming up his meat in the microwave. So it's great. Like, designate jobs to your husband and your children for cleaning and the things that they're capable of doing, so that you can use that time to help all of you live a healthier life. Couple little tidbits real quick before we finish this up here. Think about how you can not eat out as much. Eating out is extremely difficult to track depending on where you go. I'm not saying that you have to cut out eating out completely. Yes, save that for, I would say, for when you get together with friends, or when you are celebrating something, or maybe just for the weekend. Don't overdo it though, because you can have a lot more control over your meals and what goes into them. And I'm not just talking about calories. I'm talking about additives and the things that they use to help preserve the food while it gets from point A to the restaurant. Okay, so I'm not talking, and even if it's a really high-end restaurant, you still have that iffiness of not knowing what's in there that could cause inflammation in your gut. So it's better to keep a balance and not choose that as a regular, daily, or even several times a week option. We're really trying to focus on putting good things in our bodies. And I said crock-pot meals already, and open your mind to what you might need to change with your macronutrients, possibly increasing your healthy fat intake or increasing your carbohydrate intake. If you take in hardly any carbs right now, if you take in a lot of carbs and that's your craving, I'm not talking to you. You're probably going to need to decrease those carbs. But maybe you need to increase your protein. Maybe you take in very little protein, or maybe it's the kind of protein that you're taking in that's causing inflammation in your body. And maybe you need to try doing a vegan diet for a little while, see how you feel, So just thinking about opening your mind to those different possibilities and adjusting your lifestyle so that you can fuel your body in the way that it's going to best create positive change for not only your physical state, but also your mental and your emotional state as well. So I know that was quite a bit, just a little recap here so you guys can take the basic information. We talked about mindset, choosing to focus on the positive, taking ownership and responsibility for our missteps, and being kind to yourself above all else, and also identifying the thought before we take some sort of an action to eat something we may not need or are hungry for. Number 2, the feeling that it makes us feel that we either need to release, repair, or overcome, or the feeling that we need to fully feel in order to figure out what it feels like. And maybe it's not as bad as you think it is. And then number 3, decision, reason, action, and reflection. Ultimately, you have control of that decision, the reasoning behind it, the action you're taking, and how that's going to reflect in your body and your mind and how you feel in the weeks to come. Focusing on our patterns and how we can identify those thoughts and feelings to help us be our best selves, and preparing in advance. Preparation and planning ahead is going to help us to be more successful in our health and lifestyle. So I hope you guys gained something from this workout today. From this podcast. I did a workout video before that. Don't forget to follow us on our social media handles listed above. This has been the Raw Reflections podcast, brought to you by The Mirror Impact. Thank you so much for joining me today and allowing me to be part of your journey. And don't forget to create the change and be the impact I'll see you next time.